thatmovieguyUK.
Right, apologies. I have moved house, echo everywhere, buying a microphone after Venice. But one film I want to talk to you guys about for quite some time is Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman. For me, Lee has been one of my favourite directors for quite some time. I've watched so many of his films. I actually began watching his films just by chance. I watched Summer of Sam because I was interested in the Son of Sam serial killer in New York, and I found it a very interesting character piece about humanity, well, about people in Brooklyn. And then I started watching more movies like Do the Right Thing, She's Gotta Have It, Chirac. I've just watched quite a few. Jungle Fever's another great one I do like quite a lot. And don't get me wrong, I hate some of his films, including Old Boy 2013, which is fucking awful. But he's back. The story of BlacKkKlansman follows the story of Ron Stallworth, played by John David Washington, yes, Denzel's son, who becomes the first black police officer in Colorado Springs. He decides to infiltrate the KKK, and as a rookie, nobody believes him that he can do it. He then calls the KKK and wants to find out more information. And obviously him being black, he couldn't actually go to meet them, so he partners up with his colleague Flick, played by Adam Driver, who becomes the white Ron Stallworth, to find out more about what the Klan are doing, even though they are becoming a lot more of a politically loved and admired group. Yes. Just like today. Even though Spike Lee really does refer a lot to D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation, which I've only just recently seen, and it is utterly racist beyond words, but it's still revered as one of the first ever big blockbuster movies of its time in 1915. He does reference it quite a lot without the film. You see a lot of footage from it. You actually see the Klan members actually watching this film, and there's a lot of hatred within this film, and Lee is really trying to make a point of how is this film within the cinematic community still being revered as a piece of cinematic art. I can see why it has received so much acclaim over the years, but D.W. Griffith's film is purely and utterly racist to the core. And it glorifies the KKK. It actually inspired people to join the Klan after the release of the film. In 1916, there was a massive uprising within Klan members within the United States of America, and Birth of the Nation really was its issue. But Lee is kind of taking that approach to it, but trying to show the reignition of the Klan within the 1970s context. I think what's interesting about Lee's film as well, it is a big humor element to it, but as the film progresses, we learn, oh, there is more to this film. You can relate a lot to what is going on in the world, and this is not just between white and black in America. This is British people against Eastern Europeans, well, Brexiters against Eastern Europeans. This is Germans against Turkish people within Germany. This is Muslims with the most of the Western world right now. It is a big political message. But with Lee's film, I really do like the way it's shot. There's a great kind of like B-movie kind of feel to it. He filmed it all on film, which is great for him. I think it's the first time he's used film in a very long time, but it just gives it that nice little grainy kind of look to it. It really does drive it on. The authenticity of like just even the costumes, the setting. You feel like you're watching like a weird version of Shaft, but with a real message. And there's a lot of homages to blaxploitation films in this. There is some beautiful music in it, and I tell you, the score will be stuck in your mind for such a long time. But the driving force of this film also is its characters. John David Washington, just as Ron Stallworth, is a classic Spike Lee character, even though he existed. But there's always that point where you feel like he doesn't really understand his point in life, just like most of his characters in films like Do the Right Thing, She's Gotta Have It. They always have time to learn, and they need to know more about their roots and their heritage. And you see that in his performance. He just learns more about how to appreciate his heritage, and that's the message I even got. Obviously, being Welsh, I should embrace my heritage, but sometimes you kind of forget that. Most of my days I speak English because not many people speak Welsh around me, and you kind of empathize with him in that way. And I feel like his performance, especially when it comes to his like heavy dialogue, my God, it puts a lump in your throat, and it is purely heartbreaking, but at the same time, such a good performance. I know everybody's comparing him to Denzel and how he sounds like Denzel, blah, 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 but this is a very good cinematic performance from him. As the same with Adam Driver, who is a Jewish detective, and obviously we know the Klan don't like Jews either, and it must have been, obviously this character is fictitious, but you can feel the hardship that he has saying very anti-Semitic comments. You feel their pain, but at the same time you can feel that they were accomplishing something, and that's how you feel throughout the film. Unfortunately, characters like Laura Harry, who's the president of the Black Students' Union and also is the love interest for Ron Stallworth, I feel like she could have been in the film a lot longer. She just wasn't in it enough. Very inspirational, the way she spoke and everything. I really did like her, but I wish there was more of her. Topher Grace, who plays David Duke in the film, you should watch David Duke's videos on YouTube because the man is an utter idiot and is a fucking bigot. And I detest this man. He is there with the David Miscaviges of the world for me. I detest him. Topher Grace, unfortunately, he's not in the film as much as I thought. And for the research that he did for this film, I feel very sorry for him, because just listening to that man talk about white America and white supremacy and the Aryan race is just horrible. And don't get me wrong, I've done quite a lot of reading or researching about David Duke myself over the years. I just hate him, and I feel like Topher Grace embodies David Duke very well. His relationship with Ron Stallworth over the phone, the backwards and forwards, I love the way that the camera cuts to both of them talking. There's like weird angles all the time. It's really good how you know how twisted of a conversation it is, but at the same time, it's just funny how David Washington is just literally taking the mick out of him, and he's having a good time. The one person that I thought really caught my attention in this film out of everybody was Jasper Pakonen, who is a Finnish actor. You may know him from films, shows like Vikings. He plays a Klan member called Felix, and not since Christoph Waltz's American debut in Inglourious Bastards have I loathed and hated an actor, but at the same time I've respected his performance because Jasper Pakonen is so real in this film. You just have to watch his performance. There's not enough about him. Not a lot of people have spoken about Pakonen's debut within American cinema, but wow, so good. Really liked it. I think, obviously, I feel like this is gonna get a lot of awards attention. And I do hope that he falls into the category of supporting for this film. I doubt it, but an amazing debut. I think it's very difficult to review BlacKkKlansman, in all honesty. It is a big political film. There is so much about this film that we can relate to modern day racism today. Racism is a big issue, I feel like, in the world right now, and I feel like Spike Lee has woken up quite a lot of people with the release of BlacKkKlansman, well, worldwide now. But I will say that it's a great shame that in the United Kingdom that this film has not had the distribution that it deserves. The people in the sticks, like me, have been stuck not being able to watch this film, and it should be shown nationwide, definitely. But in the big cities, it's all playing. But I went all the way to Chester to go and see this film because I wasn't going to miss it. And I feel like there's a big market for it. But for the nationwide cinemas that haven't played this in rural areas, you should be ashamed of yourselves. I do hope that you guys go and see BlacKkKlansman and you'll have a good time. You will feel very teary by the end because the ending is horrible. The double dolly shot that leads the two main leads in the film to a window with a burning cross, and then we go to the events of Charlottesville in 2017, and it is absolutely horrifying. And I really didn't know what to say. I even remember walking to the toilet after the film, and I was just still quite emotionally drained after the ending. But Spike Lee, I think this is his strongest film in a very, very long time. Even though I do like Shrek quite a lot, but one of the better films of 2018 by a country mile. And I do hope you guys go and see BlacKkKlansman. And if you've seen it, let me know, because I would love to discuss this film with anybody. I know quite a lot of people are getting negative comments from Klan members and many of Donald Trump's fan zone. So I'm ready for your comments. Bring it on, I guess. Obviously, my written review is on my website, www.thatmovieguyUK.wordpress.com, and it's also on my letterbox. All my social media is below. Don't forget, I am actually going to Venice this week, so be sure to stay tuned on here and on www.moviemarket.co.uk for all my reviews and my video reviews. It's going to be a very busy week, and we will discuss this more in my Cold War review, which is going to be next. Obviously, guys, all I can say now is diolch, danke, obrigado, merci beaucoup, arigato, dankeschön, bitteschön, and all the shins. And obviously, never change.